is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
All right. Here we go, man. Listen, let's welcome everybody to the process. The process is way more important than the product. Man, y'all wouldn't believe who I have as our guest this week. A former teammate of mine, man, a mountain of a man. Guy Trent Green, multi-year NFL quarterback, played for the Redskins, the Rams, the Chiefs, as everybody knows, played for the Chiefs. And then a number of other things. Had Pro Bowls, man. Listen, we'll get into all that, but first we got to do.
And we were teammates on two teams.
And we was teammates on
two teams. Yes.
We
go way back.
We go way back. So before we do anything, man, the McGinnis Group. Obviously, we always got to thank our title sponsor, McGinnis Group. Yes, I do work for the McGinnis Group. At the McGinnis Group, we specialize in employee benefits, health insurance for companies, retirement packages, other services like life insurance, and also long-term health care. We would love an opportunity to take an examination of your company or your personal health benefits package, because together, everyone achieves more. That's TEAM. And at the McGinnis Group, MGI, we are a team, TEAM. And so we always like to believe that together, everyone achieves more. And without further ado, we're going to jump into it. Everybody who watches this show, man, we always start the same way. The who, the what, and the where. Who is Trent Green? What is he doing now? And then where can people find him on social media if he's on it?
All right, here we go. And first off, if you guys are interested in the McGinnis Group, they've got some good golfers over there too.
Yeah.
So
Scott Soxy, Matt McGinnis.
They wouldn't be shy about going out for a round of golf and talking business either. So,
you got a low handicap, man. Let us know.
Guys.
Give us a call.
Those are some good guys. All right, so what am I up to now? So yeah, you're right. I played in the NFL for 15 years, a number of different teams, but spent most of my career here in Kansas City and Washington. Those were the two teams I was with the most. So we live here in Kansas City. We ended up staying here. My final season was 2008 with the Rams. At the end of that season, we decided as a family to move back to Kansas City because that's where our daughter Janelle was born, who's now a senior in high school. Our boys, this is where they were raised. And so the friends, the teams, and we had spent a lot of years here from a playing standpoint. So Julie and I, my wife, we decided that this was the best spot to raise a family. And so, yeah, we've been here for a long time. The boys have made it through high school and they're in college, out of college now. And then, like I said, our daughter Janelle is a senior in high school and she'll be heading off to college here soon. So about to be an empty nester. And then I got into the broadcasting world. I wasn't sure what I was going to do when I was done playing. It just was an opportunity that came up. I tried radio, I tried studio, I tried games, and now I've kind of fallen into the games mode. I still do some studio stuff, but now it's more doing games. So this is my 10th season with CBS. It's been a great run. I worked 6 years with Greg Gumbel as my play-by-play guy, and now I'm in my 4th season with Kevin Harlan. Another Kansas City guy. So yeah, it's been a great run. I've really enjoyed it. Keeps me close to the game, but then allows me some time, in the off season to be the volleyball dad that I want to be. So that's a lot of fun. Social media wise, I'm only an X guy.
Okay,
it's all X guys.
X the new Twitter.
Yes,
new Twitter.
So at Trent Green 10 is my X handle, I guess, but I'm not a huge social media guy, as you know, Shop.
The reoccurring theme of all our guests, because we all former players, is most of them are smart enough to know that, man, being on social media is not a benefit. It's good to surf and keep track of what other people are doing. Like, yeah, I follow a bunch of people, but I don't have many people follow me because I ain't really doing that much worth sharing on social media. I share things with my family, my friends, and that's about it. And that circle stays pretty close. And I think that's the one of the things that are reoccurring in being a successful ex-athlete transitioning out of the game is you got to realize, everybody is not, we are not the sun. Everybody doesn't revolve around us. We're just cogs in this thing, man. If we can spread a little light, spread a little love, and keep things moving, that's really what we want to do. So you mentioned Janelle.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think a lot of former players have a hard time transitioning, right? Because your whole time growing up, you're the guy, right? Because no matter what community you grew up in, city you grew up in, I mean, to get to the NFL at the early stages, you were probably a star, whether it be your little league, high school on up. So you go through this process of always being the guy. And then whether it's a 1-year career in the NFL or whether it's a 15-year or a 20-year career or anywhere in between, when you're done, you all of a sudden got to find that next piece to transition to. And then that's what a lot of former players have had a hard time with, and a lot of former players have had tremendous success finding different avenues and different outlets. And so it's having an impact. That's something that I always felt was important is God blessed me with the ability to play football, and with that format, you got to do some good. So not only, I'm not only doing the stuff with media as far as CBS, but do a lot of stuff here in the community for a number of years. Julie and I have, so it's important for us. That's an important part of it.
And we'll talk in the third set. We'll talk about some of the things you're doing charitable. Obviously, mentioning Trent Green Foundation, and you're working with the Ronald McDonald House and their charities and the golf tournament and stuff. We always have a fun time. All the alumni coming to support.
Yes,
but I mean, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Is that the growing and raised?
That was where I was born. So my parents were born and raised there. I was born there, lived there probably 5 years. I think I got up to kindergarten, and then my dad got transferred. We moved over to Bloomington, Illinois, where Illinois State University is. We were in a little town in between Bloomington and Carlock. So I was at a little elementary school there, and then 5th grade we moved to St. Louis. So I tell people I grew up in St. Louis because we were there, all the way from 10 years old until off to college. So
all right. Drafted by the San Diego Chargers. Yep. They only got 8 rounds.
I know they don't. Yeah, they don't.
So,
yeah.
It only goes to 7 rounds now. Right. So you was in one of those.
And I was third to last pick. So I was almost Mr. Irrelevant. I almost got the parade. I was like, if you're gonna go that late, you might as well get in the parade or something. But it took a while.
Well, even from being drafted though, the actual start of your NFL career, even that was, you get there and no one really kick it off. You go to the BC Lions for a little bit, and then you come to Washington, right? Yep. At the Redskins. That's where me and you first became teammates. Right. At the Washington Redskins, who are now the Commanders. But then that's when your career kind of takes off. You start rolling there. Unfortunately, an injury deters that season. Yeah. You come to Kansas
City in 2001. So yeah, it was a crazy start to the career. Everybody. Especially now in the broadcasting world and living here in Kansas City, people want me to draw parallels with what Patrick's going through, and I'm like, well, this is a whole different deal. Yeah. I didn't start until I was 27. I didn't get my first start until I was 27. I really didn't even get to play until I was 27. Mm-hmm. So it was actually I didn't get my first start until I was 28. That was the 98 season. So as you said, I was 1 year in San Diego, got cut. Spent a few weeks up in Canada, got cut, ended up signing with Washington, was there 4 years, got an opportunity to play, ended up after that 98 season as a free agent, signed with the Rams. Things were rolling along. We were going great. Greatest Show on Turf was just getting started. And then I blew my knee out. And so ended up backing up Kurt Warner, and we won a Super Bowl that year, and he got MVP and all those kind of things. So I understood what was going on and what my opportunity was going to be, or lack of opportunity. So I talked with Mike Martz, who was the head coach at the time, because Coach Vermeil had retired, and just said, hey, if there's an opportunity out there for me to play, I'm getting that stage in my career where I want to and need to play. And so fortunately for me, Coach Vermeil came out of retirement prior to the 2001 season and kind of made things happen with Carl Peterson, and they got the trade done. And so then, they had a nice 6-year run here in Kansas City.
We talk about that trade. You actually got traded for the 12th overall draft pick. I mean, that's not nothing to be. That's no shabby trade. Now, you didn't get traded for just a box of bubble gum.
So go from the 222nd pick to the 12th. You said
I mean, man, you talk about some appreciation and value.
Right. Took a long time to get there.
And I think Kansas City still got the best end of that deal. Yes, traded for the 12th overall pick. You have 4 consecutive seasons with a 90-plus quarterback rating. That included a 2005 Pro Bowl when you have 4,010 yards, only 10 interceptions, and also, then after that 2007 season, you were traded to Miami.
Yes.
But let's focus on that Chiefs span of 4 seasons.
Okay.
4 seasons of 90 plus, like having a 90 point something above quarterback rating is what every offensive coordinator is looking for right now.
Right.
They want consistency. They want touchdowns, 2 touchdowns to 1 turnover type ratio. They want completion percentage. They want the yardage, the air yardage. Understanding how offenses flow, I think that we all, like, I talked to Billy Baber and Eddie Kennison and Kevin Lockett, and we talk about when Al Saunders was here, that offense that was being run in the early 2000s, it was light years out of what everybody else was doing. The concepts, the timing. I still say today, I've seen top 3 quarterback on the field in preparation, ball delivery, understanding defense. And it's nobody that anybody else thinks. It's Trent Green, because on the practice field, I saw how you move defenders with your eyes. I saw how you anticipated routes. I saw how you could throw on time and off time. You had the mobility to buy extra time, which we had one of the greatest offensive lines. So I don't know if you really needed to avoid the pocket much.
Right.
And then you pair that up with the ground game we had with Priest Holmes.
Yep.
And then
Priest and LJ, yeah.
Priest and LJ.
Yeah.
And then a reliable option like Tony Gonzalez.
Right.
So all of those ingredients, I think I was witnessed on the practice field every day, practicing against one of the most potent, effective, consistent offenses that have ever been on the NFL field when you add all of those pieces together.
Well, and thank you for saying all that. It's a lot of hard work went into that, a lot of practice, a lot of time, and it didn't come quickly. I mean, those are things you have to learn as a player, as a coaching staff, as an offensive unit. We had some great offenses. You just mentioned all the Hall of Famers, Pro Football Hall of Famers, Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Famers. We put up a lot of points. It was it was a fun offense to be a part of, and there was a lot that went into it, the timing of it, and that's really, you brought up some of the numbers, and the numbers. It's funny how, like, throughout the course of history of the NFL, like the number, like when I first came in the league, is like if you could complete 55%. That was good. If you completed 60%, that was great. Mm-hmm. So my goal was to complete 60%. Well, I completed 60%. Well, nowadays, 60% is like, if you complete 60%, you're like in the bottom, maybe 5th of the league or something. Like, guys are 70% now. Yes. So it's like the game has changed, and the quick passing game is a lot different now than what it was. We were more, as you said, the running game, the play action pass, pushing the ball up the field. Our progressions were mainly reading high to low, as opposed to now there's a lot of the quick stuff, get it out of your hands. Oh, if it's not there and you got the protection, then push it down the field. So the game has evolved and the game has changed. And so it's, but there was a lot of timing that went into that. There was my whole thing, and guys learn quickly, I'm the one with the ball, so I determine where it's going to go. And I don't know if Eddie's ever told you this, but Eddie, when he first got here and towards the end of the 2001 season, at practice one time, he like slowed down on the backside, and I was like, he came back to the huddle. I said, what did you do? He goes, well, I'm on the backside of the read. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I said, I decide where it's going. I know what the progression is, but if I see the defense do something, I'm coming to you, because I'm aware of where all the pieces are. And so he took that, and he became that reliable wide receiver that was always in the right spot, always at the right time, and the timing of it. You mentioned getting the ball out of your hand and the quickness of it, and being able to look at it. Well, if you can trust that a guy's going to be there, you can look all you want to get the defenders to move, and then you turn and you throw it to that spot because you know the guy's going to be there. So there's a lot that goes into that, whether it was Gonzalez or Eddie or Dante Hall or Sammy Parker or on down the line. So it was it was a fun offense to be a part of.
Man, not taking anything away from it, but the football nation names you, and you were 41st in all the quarterbacks that have ever played post-merger area. You were the 41st ranked quarterback as far as their 1 to 50. So in all the quarterbacks who have played, even being named or mentioned in the top 50, I think is a tribute. But I think 41 is still a little bit too low for you. I looked at it and I looked at the list and I marked out the names. So
Who you put me ahead of? Well,
I put you ahead of a lot of people that maybe because I played against you every day in practice. So I know the preparation, I know the results, I know what you did. So you ended up at 23.
Okay. Nice.
In the history of football,
Appreciate it, Shop.
Post-merger area, you are, in my eyes, the 23rd best quarterback to have ever taken a snap and played in the NFL. And I say that was in 2012. And then in 2016, you were named by the Big Ten. You got the Tony Dungy, maybe not Dungy, but the Dungy-Thompson Humanitarian Award. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we say we're going to save some of the nonprofit and stuff for the last segment, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned both of those awards because it's deserving. And when we talk about the who, the what, the where, the accolades and the credentials are definitely deserving.
Well, thank you. And I didn't know all those numbers, so thank you. I don't look at the list, so I was not aware of that. So that's a nice honor. But the Dungy Thompson Award, named after Tony Dungy and Anthony Thompson. Anthony Thompson was one of my running backs at Indiana and has gone on to do great things. Played in the NFL for a while and does a bunch of stuff for Indiana University and for the Big Ten. So two guys that I really look up to, and being honored by the Big Ten with that award, really, really meant a lot.
Man, amazing. All right, we're going to take a quick break and get back to other tidbits and facts. Maybe we're going to dig deep into the quarterback ranking. How did I get that 23 and why did I get that 23? We'll be right back to you after a quick break. You're listening to The Process, where the process is always greater than the product.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Man, we right back at you. This is The Process, where the process is always greater than the product. Once again, 10-year veteran Shawn Barber, former linebacker in the NFL. I'm with my man Trent Green, Trent Greasy. We're going to talk about some quarterbacks in reference to, I just want you to know, I did a quick telephone booth change. I put my man Alex Smith on, tribute to Alex Smith while he was here with the Chiefs. But we'll get back to this. But I'm Team Alex, and I'll let you know in a little bit why I'm Team Alex when we talk about some things going on with the media right now. But man, like I said, I referenced you being, in my eyes, the 23rd best quarterback to ever play the game. And I created a list. So I took those 22 names I had in front of you and I broke it up into my first tier and second tier. And my first tier doesn't include Pat Mahomes. And so I wanted to preface that because everybody else is kind of either done playing, finished playing. The majority of these guys are played during my era. So,
and it's important that people understand this list of yours that you're about to say is guys that you followed and grew up with. So there's some guys that aren't on the list that maybe are Hall of Famers, but that you didn't really see play. So this is your list.
Yeah, like Bradshaw and Namath and Otto and Grant. Like, some names is not. Just let's break down the list. So I'm gonna list these 11 names, and I want you at some point to keep a track. And then if one of these guys maybe not should be in there, that's gonna be one guy I'm gonna take out of the list and put Pat Mahomes' name in there.
Okay.
All right, so mine starts off with, John Elway, Tom Brady, both of the Manning brothers, Eli and Peyton, Joe Montana, Marino, Troy Aikman, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, and Steve Young. That was 11 quarterbacks who, in my opinion, are the top tier to have ever played the game.
Yeah.
And I want to take one of those names out. I want to take one of those names out and move them to the next tier. And I think Patrick Mahomes has done enough that we know he's going to be.
Yes.
Yes. If not him, he's going to be somewhere near.
Not that he's going to retire at the end of the season, but if he were to retire at the end of this season,
he's still
he would be on that list. I'm just telling you right now.
Well, who would he take off? Who? I know it's hard to be a quarterback, and I know, man.
Put me in this spot. I respect all those guys. I know the work that goes into playing the position.
And we're not saying they're not
good. I know
good.
Talent. I know.
I'm just bumping them down to the next season.
Guys are all Hall of Famers, or in certain cases, soon to be Hall of Famers.
Yes.
I mean, if you're making me,
I'm just asking.
If you're making me pick one, I would probably have to say Eli.
All right.
At this point in time, and that's, he won 2 Super Bowls.
Yes.
Yep. Another guy that I really, really, really respect because of where his career started and where he finished is Steve Young. But because of the USFL days and backing up Montana and kind of I love what he did because even though it's a different story than mine, it's a similar story. And that, listen, everything didn't come easy. He kind of had to work through his years in Tampa Bay. And then he was backing up Joe. And anyway, so I like how he, finished strong. And like I said, he's a Hall of Famer. And so if I had to pick one, if I had to pick two, then I would probably pick Steve out of those names. Like I said, those guys are all legends, like way above where I was. So
again, I'm taking Eli out, and I'm taking Eli out because I'm telling you, man, I played against him, I had opportunity. He benefited so much from the no-look pass. And when I call it a no-look pass, I mean looking over to the right side in cover 2 and making the safety and everybody think you're going to the right side or left side, and then throwing to the complete opposite 40 yards in a barrel. He made Amani Tuma and the rest of those Giants receiver cores look phenomenal. He made that offense go with Tiki, Shawn Barber, and that offense. I think he was there a little bit with Shockey, when Shockey was a tight end and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he had such a long career. Plexico Burris. Yeah. But he was the master of the no-look pass when it came down to the no-look bomb pass, not just the Patrick Mahomes no-look pass, but I'm talking about 40, 50 yards deep, airing it out, and just having somebody waiting at the other side of the field to benefit from that no-look pass. And he never got hit. He always knew how to turn his shoulders away and never take that big hit, even though that was a phase of when you could get hit as a quarterback. Again, he's not. I just bump him down. I just bump him to the next 11. Yeah. I'm going to put Pat Mahomes right there. So we got that 11 out the way.
So when I'm thinking of that and just hearing those names, so for me, the way I look at it is like my top 10. Who I would rattle off would be, I want guys, and that's why I've already put Patrick in my top 10. Guys that changed the position, guys that were able to do things that nobody else was doing. Like Marino did things that nobody else was doing. Elway did things that nobody else was doing. Montana definitely did that. Brady, Peyton Manning, he changed the way the quarterbacks approach the game mentally, the way they handled at the line of scrimmage. Rodgers has done the same things. Mahomes has done the same thing. I mean, for me, I go out and I watch high school and college games now, and people are doing what Pat or try to do, and I'm like, no, unless you grew up doing those things. Because when I've had those conversations with Patrick, it's why I don't even think about it, because it's my background in baseball and what I did in playing the middle infield. You're turning 2 and you're getting it over to the, it's like, so he doesn't even think about the different throwing platforms. Now people are talking about, oh, you've got to train throwing at different platforms. You got to, it used to be you never would roll right and throw back left. You never threw across the grain. And now it's commonplace. Like you go out and watch youth games and they're, they're doing like, no, wait, don't do that. It's like, but they're training that way. And so that's why for me, like for me, Dan Fouts, I don't know if Dan Fouts would be in my top 10, but Dan Fouts is a guy that changed the game. Like the Air Coryell offense and what the Chargers were doing in the 80s, the numbers he was able to put up, the numbers that offense was able to put up, it really changed the landscape of the game. And so he's the guy, that Johnny Unitas, Roger Staubach, it's like, but these are guys like you. Your list was guys that you watched. Like, I'm not old enough that Johnny Unitas, but I'm old enough that I watch Roger Staubach. I'm old enough that I watch Fran Tarkenton. Fran Tarkenton changed the way that, he was the leading passer in the NFL before Marino passed him. And now multiple guys have passed Marino because the game has changed. But, so I started looking at some of those guys, like who had such an impact that they changed the way the kids trained. They changed the way that offensive coaches, called plays or changed, So there's a lot that there's a lot of stuff a lot of layers that go into that.
I like this.
Yeah,
that mindset, the game changer, the aspect of being not just a leader on the field, not having the capability, not having the stats, but that something you did on the football field changed the game is one of the priorities to be one of your top 10. That's beautiful, man. Now I'm gonna get into that second tier. The second tier, all right. I didn't include Fouts.
And some guys in the second tier changed the game too. It's just you can only have so many in the top 10.
That's what makes it so hard, man. So I got Big Ben, I got Matty Ice, Matt Ryan, I got Phillip Rivers, Drew Bledsoe, Andrew Luck, McNabb, Cunningham, Warren Moon, Boomer Esiason, Kurt Warner, and then Carson Palmer.
Uh-huh.
So I put those guys in the group of, again, guys I've actually watched them play, but this really feel like impacted the two names I left out though were Jim Kelly and Russell Wilson, for totally different reasons.
Yeah.
Jim Kelly was somebody, when I started getting in front of football, just seeing him be the leader of a team that went to 4 consecutive Super Bowls to me meant he must be doing something right at that position. That position of leadership, he must be doing something right. And then Russell Wilson, I mean, he from my hometown. He's a hometown guy. Representing the VA, went out to Seattle, still 2 up, 2 down, throwing up all day VA, and now he's kind of got back on the right ship when he comes out to be in Denver, being out there with Peyton and stuff. So I don't know, man. Up there,
I like a lot of those, and some of those guys changed the way. Like Warren Moon.
Oh yeah.
He changed the way that people, and Warren Moon and Jim Kelly are kind of in that same era, kind of that running gun. Just spread everybody out 4 wide, shot. I mean, that really, those two were game changers in the way they did it. And I have Jim Kelly in there because 4 Super Bowls in a row and what they did with that offense. So he's up there on my list. But I really like some of those names you had in that second tier because those guys, I love like a Big Ben, right? And I not the long-term success that Tom Brady had, but I look at Big Ben's game when he first came in the league and how he changed as a quarterback, and later in his career, what he did and how he developed. Same thing with Brady. Like Brady early in his career, those first couple Super Bowls, he was throwing, I mean, if he threw for 3,000 yards, that would be a surprise. I mean, it was those first couple of, it wasn't, and then he changed his game. He continued to work at his game, and they continued to surround people around him, and really the offense and the numbers and everything changed. So Ben's a guy like that for me. I think early in his career and the way he developed and the way that offense developed around him with his skill set, there's some guys with a ton of respect. As you said, Matty Ice, he came in the league flinging it from year one.
Yes.
What did he make? He made the playoffs like his first 6 years in the league or something like that. So, a lot of respect.
And the guys who I'm throwing off that list to put Russell Wilson and Jim Kelly on that list, I'm throwing out Andrew Luck just because the career was so short.
Yes.
When the opportunity was to continue playing.
And he's phenomenal in the window of time that he played, but based on some of those guys on the list, it was too short.
Yeah. And then I'm throwing out Nasty McNabb. I mean, former teammate of mine, I actually seen him divide a locker room. And I was a part of that when I was in Philadelphia. Jeff George came.
So you got an inside scoop.
Yeah.
I got a lot lot of respect for Donovan, but I don't know what was going on behind closed doors.
Well, I'm about to tell you. Jeff George comes and be a part of the team, and he's a back.
I didn't realize Jeff.
Oh, Jeff
was
Garcia.
Oh, Jeff Garcia. Okay,
Jeff Garcia comes in, right? Number 7 comes in.
Oh, yeah.
And he learns the offense, and it's the West Coast offense.
And Jeff was a hell of a quarterback with the 49ers.
And this is the end of his career, so he doesn't have the arm strength, but is just a warrior.
Yeah.
I mean, he is battling. He's watching down the blitz and throwing it where it needs to be. Yeah. Not turning away from the blitz and running and
he didn't shy away from any of that.
Not voiding or vacating the pocket early so he can show off his legs and all that kind of stuff. Ain't playing no guitars and all that kind of stuff. What Donovan was he wanted the light to always be Donovan. He wanted he took the blame, but he also wanted the credit.
Yeah.
Jeff Garcia couldn't give the Todd Pinkstons of the world, his receivers of the world, Westbrook as the running back.
You guys have James Thrash? Yes.
JT Money.
Yeah. JT's my guy.
He was always given so much credit and appreciation for the job they're doing.
Yeah.
The guys up front, He never wanted anything. He was like, I'm just delivering the ball. I'm putting the ball and putting it in their hands, letting them go play. And the city of Philly kind of started to really like that. Yeah. The offensive line started wearing number 7 hats. Really? And it created a big division.
Well,
Team McNabb and Jeff. And I mean, we ended up losing at the end of the season. I can't remember which year that was. I think that was the year we lost to the Saints, maybe, in the NFC Championship game. But we lost at the end of that season. But I saw internally a team get divided because the head of the team, the leader, our quarterback, could not take it that somebody else who was.
And so was he, when Jeff had I don't remember though, that was Donovan hurt at the time and Jeff went in and played really well? Yes. And then did Donovan come back like later in the season?
Tried to. The offensive line always went 7 hats.
Right.
You know, I think actually my mom might have said like got on like when a reporter or something, it's like, like my baby's healthy now. Like it just became an issue. And when you talk about the humbleness and the like, man, 1 of 11 and it's the team first mentality and always just totally rooting for the guy behind you to now he's running the team and being able to be humbled enough to just realize, hey, I got to support him like it's me out there kind of thing. Right. That was void. That was not part of what was going on when I was there in Philadelphia. So I got about
that was always an important part for me. I don't know how it was in the linebacker room. I don't know, what it's like in the other position rooms, but in the quarterback room, we generally always have you have your quarterback coach, but you generally always have the offensive coordinator. A lot of times you have the head coach in there, and so you're always talking about not only the game plan and protections and how you want to handle certain situations, because you have a lot of check with me's and plays you can check out of and get into the right situation. You're talking about game management and understanding it all. So for me, even going back to our years in Washington, it was always important to have that room, a strong room, and try and support those guys as much as I can. And then when we got, the 4 years there in Washington, then when I got to St. Louis, it was an important part for me to try and help Kurt as much as possible. Because at that point in time, they said, Kurt's going to be our backup. Yeah. So when I came in, I tried as much, and Kurt has made this point in several of his speeches and appearances, just I didn't want it to be, I felt confident in what I could do, so why not just try and support him? And so then when I did get hurt, and what he was able to learn from the offense and then he took it a whole nother step, right? The numbers he did and put up. But I always thought it was important. And even in Kansas City, every team I ever was on, I couldn't understand, you don't control who plays, right? The coach ultimately decides who plays. So why not support everybody and get everybody ready to play? And if they decide to play the other guy, well, it stinks for me. But if I get my chance, I'm going to be ready to play because I've put in the work. I don't know. That just never, that was always my approach. Whether I was the third guy, which I was the third guy for 6 years, or the starting guy, I always wanted that room to be strong and to be as supportive as possible. Yeah,
and I think coming in, not being a guy who's day one started like some of the guys coming now, they never have the ability to learn that. That availability and that opportunity to have to be the third guy. Right. Throwing to the scout team, throwing to the backups, and doing all the extra. I mean,
I told Norv, so Norv Turner was our head coach in Washington, and I told Norv all the time. I said, "Listen, I appreciate the fact that you signed me off the street because I was on this. I mean, I was on the street when they signed me, and because I'd been released from the Chargers and released from the CFL, the BC Lions, and so when he signed me, I was literally on the street, and so it was like, I appreciate that opportunity. I wish you had started me. I wish you had played me a little bit sooner because I felt like I was ready. But when I was ready, when I did get out there, I felt I knew how I wanted to handle the locker room. I knew I wanted to handle the huddle. I knew how I wanted to run an offense, how to handle an off season, how to deal with the media, how to deal with charity work, how to handle my family in terms of all those outside things that come into it. So I felt like I was very prepared for it. At that point in time, I just wish it had been a little bit. A little bit sooner, but it's all good. It's part of the journey.
It's part of the journey. So right now,
or part of the process.
Well, that's right. It was part of the process. We're gonna get into why I'm wearing this jersey right now. The Team Smith, Alex Smith. I'm Team Smith. Earlier this week, man, listen, Tom Brady made some comments where he said, let me make sure I quote him the right way. Tom Brady says that mediocre. He uses the word mediocre, right? The NFL. Current day NFL is mediocre. There's a lack of excellence being displayed on the field. And he blames college development. He blames the ability of the overall NFL, the normal quarterback, lack of mentorship. The pro concepts and styles are too complicated for the guys. Drafting and starting them early. The D-line is getting pressure on them before they can go through so it gives a list of examples and reasons why he calls the NFL at this point in time mediocre.
Okay.
And then we have on the other side, Alex Smith. He gets on there and says, hey Tom, you got to be understanding that in your era of playing, the division you played against stunk. It was god awful. And there was no competition in your own division. So those are 6 wins after training camp. You pretty much marked out, all right, we're 6-0 and we haven't even got to week 1 yet.
Right.
So this is a tale of two.
And he said that with Rex Ryan 2 seats away from him. Was that not priceless?
Yes, it was.
His face was just like, are you kidding me? I'm sitting right here. Yeah.
Man, so to know the TB12 played in one of the most, I think he called it uncompetitive divisions in the history of football. Talking about the AFC East during that, that run he had with the Patriots.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody at some point, you got to either look at it and be Team Tom or Team Alex, because it makes a good point. It makes a great point about how quick quarterbacks are giving the reins and telling them, hey, is your team go run with it? We had 2 quarterbacks between Bryce Young,
CJ Stroud,
both
Anthony Richardson,
even the guy at Tennessee now,
Will Levis.
Yep. So all those guys in their rookie year have been just giving the reins and saying, hey, almost sink or swim type mentality.
Right.
So it does go back and forth. TB, I think, has some good points that he was trying to make.
Right.
But I think that the statement of calling the NFL mediocre, now that he's not a part of it no more, and then talking about how the quarterback position is now being protected when I think it was called the Tom Brady rule. I think that there was a rule made up to protect the quarterback.
Just like there were Jordan rules, there definitely were Brady rules.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now taking accountability for the fact that, you're, lobbying for, roughing the passer calls, it pretty much led to where we are right now. I mean, that's the foundation of where we are right now, with the quarterback being almost overly protected.
Right.
And now he wants to kind of, slide back from the Tom Brady rule and say that the NFL is mediocre. I kind of liked, I think that my man Alex Smith, I think that the fact that he just, almost out of nowhere.
Right. Oh yeah, that was it definitely threw me. I know that's generally not Alex's style, but he threw it out there.
Yeah. So if you had to say your point of view was I ain't gonna say you had to be Team Tom or Team Alex.
Yeah.
But which of those point of views do you feel like you're more aligned with as far as your thoughts about the?
Well, I'm gonna go right in the middle.
Okay.
I mean, I just think there's a little bit of both in there, and I'll give you my reasons why. I think if you look at the NFL this season, there have been 10 starting rookie quarterbacks that have started at least one game. You're not going to be that developed as a rookie quarterback, and if there's 10 of them, I mean, the DeVito in New York, it's like all these guys weren't the C.J. Strouds or the Bryce Youngs or the Anthony Richardsons, and you look at the injuries to the starting quarterback. So, who's out for the year? Anthony Richardson's out for the year. Deshaun Watson's out for the year. Joe Burrow's out for the year. Kirk Cousins is out for the year. I mean, these guys, you talk about quarterback, like Joe Burrow is an MVP candidate every year. The numbers that Kirk Cousins puts up and what that offense has been able to do has been phenomenal in his time in Minnesota. So you start, and Anthony Richardson was really playing well. He had a couple of injuries throughout the course of the season, but the fact that his season is done. Deshaun Watson was just starting to play like everybody remembered Deshaun Watson playing. Struggled at the beginning of the year, but was just starting to get things going when now all of a sudden he's down for. So all of a sudden you throw these young, inexperienced quarterbacks in there. Then I'm going to take it back to the collective bargain agreement. When they took away the offseason, and listen, I'm all for the players. I wish when we were there, we had some of these rules, the rules protecting players, especially quarterbacks. I wish those were there. But some of the off-season stuff, right? It was voluntary, but it was air quotes voluntary, right? And so now with the CBA, there's only a certain amount of days you can be in the facility. There's only a certain amount of days you can be in the facility and talking to a coach. There's only a certain amount of days you can watch film with the coach. There's only a certain amount of days you can have padded practices or practice at all. There's video cameras everywhere. So as soon as a guy steps on the field, that timer starts. And the NFLPA is all over it because they're like, listen, you're only allowed, on this day, you're allowed 2 hours and 30 minutes. This day, you're allowed 2 hours and 10 minutes. This day, you're allowed an hour and 45 minutes. As soon as that first player walks out there, it starts. So, our era, even though I wish it was shorter, I wish some of our days weren't 12 and 14-hour days.
Oh, man.
you had the walkthroughs, you had the practice times, you had the reps, you had all that stuff. But I think it made the game better. Yeah. I remember when the CBA first came out and the adjustments, talking to the John Harbaughs and talking to the Bill Belichick's and the Mike Tomlins and say, how are you having to adjust these things? Andy Reid, how are you adjusting these things? Because now your off season's a lot shorter. Your time on the field is and they're like, you have to adjust to the game. That's what the rules are, and that's what you have to adjust to. So I think there's a little bit of that on both sides. I do also think the AFC East was at that time during Tom's era. There was so that's why I fall a little bit in the middle. I think when you have the injuries to the starting quarterbacks, the number of rookie quarterbacks that are playing, and the lack of time that guys have within the facility, both off season and in season, practice time, all those things, I think it does.
I like
that. That's where I fall in the middle.
All right. Well, no matter what side of the fence you fall on, whether you're team Brady or team Alex Smith, the overall arching goal is that it doesn't affect the integrity of the game. And we don't want to get to a point where people are using the excuses or the reasons that Tom Brady says in some form of saying that in some form is going to affect the outcome of a game or affect the level of play of the game or the points being scored or passing or any level of excuses, because the integrity of the game is something that always has to be protected. And so in the last segment, we're going to talk about that, the integrity of the game, maybe some things that me and Trent think could be changed, some tweaks to the system, maybe some rules or some penalties, some fractions that could change the game, make it a better game for everybody. And we'll do that in the third segment. We'll get right back at you.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Man, welcome back to The Process. The Process is always greater than what it produces. And so with that, man, we just want to jump back into, we were speaking before we took a break about the integrity of the game and how the nature of the game with certain calls being made or not made. And there are ways that, we've watched a lot of football throughout the years. Is there anything or any way you think the game could be adjusted just to make it a more entertaining game, or make it a more where the better team wins or anything like that without affecting the overall flow of play?
I think there's a few things. I know. As far as challenging plays, that's been an ongoing battle. What can be challenged? What can't be challenged? Bill Belichick brought up probably 5 years ago or more that why not challenge every play? If you got 3 challenges, challenge every play. The problem is some of those plays are a judgment call. Mm-hmm. So pass interference is a judgment call. Roughing the passer is a judgment call. Holding could be, is that holding or that holding? It's like, so it's some of those, there is a human factor to it. For one referee, that is a holding call or a DPI. For another official, it's not a DPI. It's actually OPI because they saw the guy push off first. Mm-hmm. But then there's that, the back and forth between the receiver and the defensive back. So I do think that, he brought up the fact that challenging. I do think there are some ways. The league is so valuable right now, right? The shield is valuable, and each individual team, the value of each team's. Why not have a stationary camera on the goal line at every stadium? Make it mandatory. Every stadium has to have a camera at the goal line, a camera on the back line, and you could even set it up so there's cameras on each sideline, depending on how many, because the TV networks, depending on what crew you are, you're limited to the amount of cameras you have. So certain crews only have 5 or 6 cameras. Certain crews have 10 to 12 cameras. And for a Super Bowl, there's 20 plus cameras because they're everywhere. So make it a mandatory thing. And I think some coaches have brought this up where you have just a stationary camera from the stadium that's going down, the goal line, going down the back line. Those are scoring plays. Those are things, also it's been brought up about having a chip in a football. You know what? If it got to the first down marker, all you got to do is look to see where did the chip cross get to the, as opposed to, the chains. And I'm nostalgic, I like a lot of the old stuff. So I don't know if I'd want to see the chains go away, the drama of taking the chains out there. And you're like, wait a second, the guy just moved the ball. What do you think? It's like, so, some of that is the drama that goes into it. So using the chip, if you're looking to speed up play, you could just go buy a computer chip in the ball. So yeah, there are definitely some ways that you can adjust it. But I think that from a referee standpoint, I know there's a big battle cry for having full-time referees.
Yes.
Some of that is just experience. Some of that is working with the same crew. Some of it is just, understanding, the give and take of it. Like I said, on some of those plays, DPI, OPI, holding, roughing the quarterback, some of those things, it's not just black and white.
Man, when you talked about the ref, the thing that popped up in my mind is that having refs spend their off season together watching film, reviewing film. Because like when you talk about being a quarterback, you talked about Eddie Kennison being on the same page. It's important for the wide receivers to see things through your eyes as the quarterback. Well, if you're the head ref for any crew, the way to make things consistent is to watch film together, talk about plays and how they're unfolding and what they're seeing. And if every group and every crew had to like watch a certain amount of film together and talk about it, you would see some type of level of consistency from game to game, from crew to crew. And I think now what you see in the NFL is that there's a certain crew that gets, that calls, 20 some holding calls every game. And then there's another crew that only calls 4 or 5.
Right.
And then the false starts. Obviously, that's been a problem here with Kansas City is that Lawan Taylor gets called for false start for doing the same thing we see 10 other teams do on Sunday. And the referee in that crew feels like that's not a call.
Right.
But our guy is being kind of villainized for it. And he's now the poster child for the tackle leaving early.
Right.
So every crew is kind of like highlighting him and being ready to call it against him. And then we watch other games throughout the day where the same movement ain't being called. Right. And so I think that's what the consistency from game to game, from crew to crew could be.
And I think that's the biggest thing that I hear from players and coaches is the consistency part. And I even hear from fans. I mean, that's what we all want, right?
Yes.
Just call it consistently. Whether or not you're going to be able to get consistency throughout the crews, because I think that's a difficult thing to do is get consistency throughout the crews because everybody's personality traits, everybody's way they look at a play is a little bit different. But from crew to crew, if you're going to call this in the first quarter, you need to call in the second, third, and fourth.
Yes.
Don't all of a sudden call something in the fourth that you didn't call the first half of the game. So I think that's what fans, that's what players, that's what coaches. Okay, how are you going to allow me to defend him? Today you're allowing me to be more hands-on. You're allowing me to be more physical. Oh, today you're going to call that like the middle of the first quarter? Then I got to adjust my game because I know that's how you're going to call it. So I think that's the biggest thing. Players, fans, coaches, they want that consistency. As far as the film watching, a lot of times after games, I'm on flights with the officials because we're all going home, trying to get home. A lot of times those officials are watching the game that they just called on the flight to wherever they're going next, if they're making a connection or whatever it may be. So they're watching the film right away. Now, when they're on their own during the week, I've talked to a number of the officials, they're watching film all week, and they're getting evaluations from the league office and from the head officials about the job that they did and the pluses and the minuses and what you need to work on. Now, as far as them watching film together, I do know Saturday nights when they finally all get back together, they'll sit down as a crew and they'll have tape to go through, hey, these are the things we did well. These are the things we need to do better. These are the things that we need to work on. This is, we need more of an emphasis here. We missed this call, So they do get together on Saturday night and do those kind of evaluations. But to your point, that's only one day a week for a couple hours. It's not like every day. So I think if they do make the full-time officials a stay, not that everybody's going to live in the same town and be able to do it in person, but now,
with Zoom and everything, this a constant like workshop.
Yes.
Of redefining certain calls and redefining how, like, yes, man, like there is holding on every play, but as long as it's inside the body frame, and once the defender started to pull away, well, that's what, like, if it's being told to them over and over, and you're watching film where you're showing it happen and you're showing it not happen, again, I get, a little bit, the hair on my neck raises a little bit when I see a flag come out. When an offensive player runs up into a defensive guy and the offensive person's route creates the contact,
right?
And you know that the offensive guy is going to create separation, right. And so the only thing I can do now is to tug and hold, because you've
right.
You've created the contact,
right?
And now if I don't stay attached to you,
then it
creates too much separation for the pass to be completed. So it's like, if you're gonna allow the offensive guy to run into me, then you gotta allow me to regain whatever leverage I lost.
And that's where I brought that up in my games is the defensive player is allowed his space.
Yes.
Like, it's like in basketball, right? You can have a charge. I mean, offensive player, it's a charge. Like, so that's not called very, very,
Very rare.
If at all. It's, it's like, wait a second, like the offensive guy. So, I know it's rare for me to defend the defenders. so yes, I defended the defenders that way. The other one is when you see that tug back and forth, and it's like, well, wait a second, that guy was extending his arm,
and I just held on,
and I just held on, and it's like, well, wait, if I'm not holding on, they'll lock up, that whole thing. It's like, if I'm not, then that's going to get pushed away, Jamal
Chase does it every time. Like, he's the poster child. Jamal Chase does it every time. I think the playmaker made it famous. Michael Irvin made it famous to, at the top of a route, always give a little nudge to create that space. And that's what, I mean, those guys, you get to that point where the pass is so accurate,
right,
and on time. There is no defending a on-time accurate pass to begin with.
Right.
Without even getting the space, there's no defense.
If you're throwing it on time, you're actually throwing it at the back of their head.
Yes.
You're throwing it to the spot where they're supposed to be.
Before they break.
Before they even, And that's where the rep part of it comes back in. Whether I can list any number of receivers. Each receiver has a little bit different body language in the way they run routes, and I would know that when so-and-so is going to give me like a double shake, or so-and-so is just going to give me one dip and then go, and I just would know, and that's just a rep thing.
Yeah.
That's a rep thing.
And with that, let's piggyback on that, because there's two different mindsets in Kansas City I've heard. Some people feel like we have 8 eligible receivers, and so because the receivers are always new out there,
right,
there could be a play or series where Patrick is forced to kind of figure out who he's throwing to,
right,
and that's going to determine, like, all right, who am I throwing to? And he runs the route a little different than the next person, versus if there was only 4 guys in rotation, like we saw. I mean, just to admit it, our wide receivers had a better game the last game when it was less guys out there.
Right.
We saw a lot more from Rashee Rice. We saw more intentionality from even like Noah Gray and Watson. So MVS, Scott Moore had a better game. So everybody seemed to raise up their productivity, even though Miko was out, Tony was out. So maybe less is more.
Yeah, it's, and I remember bringing this up to Patrick in training camp, doing the preseason games. Just, there's no way you can get all the reps with the amount of, you just can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not allowed that much practice time, first off, and you're not, your arms, you don't have unlimited reps in your arms. So he seemed to think it wasn't going to be that big a deal. I think we've seen that it is maybe a little bit bigger deal. And that's the answer he has to give. I mean, as the starting quarterback, that's what you have to say. And I think Andy does a good job of having different packages for those different receivers and for their skill set. You've been with Andy, so you know what he's like as a play caller, and he puts guys in position, but it's hard to get that many reps.
Yeah.
Like, the reason that Patrick and Travis are the way they are is because of reps. I mean, those two have how many millions, and I'm going to say millions, of throws those two have made over the course of their careers together, maybe hundreds of thousands. But it's, the body language. They're going to they're going to work in the zone. That improv that's going to happen. They're just on the same page when it isn't that it's hard to get that much work when you have that many different guys.
Yeah, and I think I spent some time talking with Kevin Lockett. He was talking about, receivers release. Like, every receiver doesn't release the same way.
Right.
And initially, if I'm playing a position of quarterback and I expect you to do an inside, really flat release based off of the leverage the defensive guy's running, and you do a vertical release, I'm a little unsure if you're going to run the route. Like the route I think you're going to run,
right,
even though I know the offense, but the way you released just seems a little off.
Right.
It would make me hesitate before, because look how you're saying, really great quarterbacks throw it at your head before you even break.
Yes.
Well, if you did a release off the line of scrimmage, it just something in me just didn't feel like that was the best release in that scenario. Well, I probably already X'd you out. Like, now you're not on my priority list.
Right.
Like, I'm
right.
gonna watch this one on film one time before I actually throw it, because once you release it, it's anybody's ball kind of thing. So I think that the frequency of working with the young guys over and over again is going to make this offense just continue to grow and be even more effective the second half of the season and in the playoffs. And so
just like in the previous seasons, the talk about the defense, right? It's like, the defense got better throughout the course of the season because there were young guys. Last year, the young DBs. The young DBs at the beginning of the season were different than the DBs we saw at the end of the season. When Spags first got here, the safeties, understanding what they needed to do because he likes to use a lot of safeties. They drop them in the box. They put in different blitz packages. We've seen a lot of that. We saw this last week's game against the Raiders with Justin Reed McDuffie. They've been using a lot of different combinations where they drop out the backside. It's like you try and cause confusion as much as you can. And so I think just like we saw the defense develop over the last few seasons, especially the 2 Super Bowl seasons, as you saw Spags getting used to his players and the players getting used to Spags and how the plays were called, I think we're probably falling into that same thing with the offense this year. We're just not used to the offense having any kind of and I hate to say struggles because they're still I mean they're
top 10 in yardage.
Right. We were talking about that. The
struggles.
The last game is like, oh, what's wrong with Patrick? I go, I think he's still like top 5 in like everything. It's like where our expectations have gone so high, and I'm saying our as in the entire league, in football fans in general. It's like, oh, what's wrong with Patrick? He doesn't, he's fine. It's okay. And like you said, the offense will get better as the season goes. And I believe so.
I do too. And we were getting ready to play. We just took care of the Raiders. Obviously, we had a rough first quarter defensively against the Raiders. And again, you're going against Devontae Adams, not just him, but Myers. And they ran a stack release over and over again in those first couple drives. Yep. And what you know about defensively is when offenses run a stack release, there's like 6 different ways that stack can unfold.
Right.
And you have to be ready against every defensive communication. How does that 6 different ways affect how we pick it up? And we were over it in that first quarter. The communication wasn't right. We were just, one guy was a little off, and I think Reed said, hey, man, I need to be better on a couple of those. I was communicating one thing and I played it a different way type thing. And that happens in defense. But the second you get to come to the sideline and say, all right, listen, we're going to treat inward motion as it was zip motion no matter what. That clears it all up to get through the game. And then you're able to just continue to go back and play. And we locked them down again ever since then. And now there's a whole different set of receivers coming up. I actually think that the Green Bay Packers and their receivers will cause a little bit more, not struggle, but a little bit more a tougher assignment because I think across the board with Reed and Watson and Dobbs, their receivers, all 3 of those guys have been up and down on who is the alpha, who's the guy you need to stop in Green Bay's passing arsenal. Each one of them have had big games, and this Jalen Reed kid is he's kind of redefining their slot position, kind of like, who's the guy that used to be with Aaron Rodgers, the guy he took with him to Green Bay.
Oh, Cobb.
He's the new Randall Cobb for them. And then Watson is definitely the deep threat, and Dobbs is the possession receiver. But unlike the other offenses we faced where there was a true alpha, and we had, Snead just take away that one guy where everybody else kind of, worried about the rest of them. Green Bay's offense, when it comes to the passing game, is kind of an equal opportunity thing. And Love, I think he has evolved since the last time we saw him. And that's a great thing for Green Bay.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be maybe as easy as some people think because I do think Jordan Love is playing better the last couple of weeks, and the different weapons that he can spread the ball around to. It's a really young, inexperienced team, and they've dealt with a bunch of injuries. They've dealt with a young roster, but they have kind of hit their stride the last couple of weeks. I thought they played extremely well on Thanksgiving. They look like a much different team. We had them earlier in the year, our crew did, and they didn't look very good. And watching them on Thanksgiving, I was like, oh, wait a second. They're starting to figure some things out. So, I do think that the Chiefs have their hands full this week.
Well, beating the Broncos, beating the Chargers, and then obviously beating Detroit, which everybody is kind of, Detroit is one of the better teams in the NFC this year. I think the Green Bay Packers should be given a little bit more respect than a 7.5 point spread. So, I mean, that's going to do it, man. Oh, we're going to just real quick. Let's talk about your foundation, Trent Green Foundation, the work you're doing with the Ronald McDonald House as far as charities and the golf tournament.
Yeah, we've been doing the golf tournament now, for a long time. Probably 2010 is when we kind of partnered up together. So I had my own golf tournament when I was playing. When you get done playing, some things disappear. So my wife and I have worked with Ronald McDonald House since back in our Washington days.
All right.
So back in 1995 was our first time working with Ronald McDonald House Charities. We built a great relationship with them in Washington. We got to St. Louis. We did the same thing, came to Kansas City. We've established that and continue that relationship with them since 2001. And then in 2010, we partnered up our golf tournaments together. And then it's been a huge success. And it just continues to grow and get better. And we've made a ton of money for the house. I want to say we're over $3 million now in the course of the years that we've raised for the house just through the golf tournament. We've done a bunch of stuff over the years for Children's Mercy Hospital, several things for the YMCA. Yeah. We Phoenix Family, we have multiple reading rooms at some of the Phoenix Family facilities, just trying to help youth become better readers and stay in school and stay out of trouble. And so there's a lot that can be done, and we're trying to, whatever little amount that is, we're trying to as best we can.
Man, well, amazing job you've done on and off the field, not only with your family, mentorship, also in the community here in Kansas City. So if you're a business and you're trying to get involved, make sure you reach out to @Trent Green 10 on his social media, but also look up the Trent Green Foundation in their golf tournament with the Ronald McDonald House. Definitely support that in a big way. Obviously, as an ex-player, I always come. I try to make both days, both the AM and the PM. However many flights he has, I'm always willing to play. Whatever team I'm on, always has a great time because I tell the best stories of any of the celebrities that play in this tournament. So, and I always ask them that same question.
At some time, somebody in the course of the day is going to come up and ask me,
"Hey, Trent, who is your favorite non-offensive teammate ever in your career? Who's the guy that on the defensive side, you were just a pleasure to be in your locker room. You just, man, kind of like a brother from another mother." And somewhere around the corner, I'm hiding.
So for years, that was always the question. But now, the last 2 years, the question is, it's no longer like, who's your favorite defensive player? Now it's, hey, who's your favorite teammate ever?
This teammate ever.
Who's the guy that, you always can, that guy, right? That guy. So,
and I'm always somewhere in the room
yes,
with a water balloon or something ready to throw at him if he says the wrong answer, because it's me. I am the best teammate he ever had. Win, lose, or draw, I'll take it. Taking it to the grave.
A lot of years together, Washington and KC. So, and then we played against each other for a few years also.
Played against each other. Yeah. And actually, man, coming to KS City, when I was on my recruiting visit, I was a free agent. After a year in Philadelphia, they brought me in, and I actually had the opportunity to go to Trent's house, and that was like the meet and greet for all the players, kind of when it was time to have the free agents in town and stuff. And so having to see his face and his family again, I kind of knew that, I mean, if he liked this area, I was definitely willing to at least give him the chance. And now I'm,
and look, he's still here.
15,
he loves it.
I mean, 20-some years later, 20.
Yeah, it is,
my first,
yes.
20 years later, I've raised 5 boys and a girl. We're part of the Blue Valley School District. I got a son playing for the Royals now and stuff like that, man. So my son working for the Chiefs. So just so thankful to be just a chapter in his story of life. Again, man, he's doing an amazing job as a father and as a friend. So we appreciate your time having you on the show. So, all right, man, that'll do it. This is The Process, where the process is always greater than what it produces. Again, Shawn Barber, 10-year NFL vet, my man Trent Green, a mountain of a man. We'll be back with y'all next week with more. Thanks again to the McGinnis Group, our title sponsor. We out.